towards the end of our conversation yesterday, we were talking about Lowry's book still, Soft War, which I'm holding here in my hands. And then towards the end of the book, he uses this geometric example of Gabriel's horn as a way to describe the relationship between Bitcoin's purchasing power and its money supply in a geometric way. And I'm not sure what we said about it yesterday. I know I was struggling to recall exactly what it was, but we've since revisited it. And so I just wanted to clarify my interpretation of what he's saying here. This structure that you see on the screen looks like basically a two-dimensional sheet that's curved towards infinity, right? This is something very similar to what Einstein used to do a rendering of a black hole, basically. And so in this metaphor, the surface area of Gabriel's horn maps onto the purchasing power of Bitcoin, in that the surface area can be pulled out to infinity. And equivalently, you can store infinite purchasing power in Bitcoin. And the paradoxical thing about this shape and what makes it such a useful visual metaphor for Bitcoin is that even though you can expand the surface area to infinity, the volume does not change. So the volume of Gabriel's horn is mapped onto the money supply of Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's money supply of 21 million does not change no matter how much purchasing power is stored in it. This is not true for any other form of money. The more purchasing power you store in gold, the more incentive you create to mine gold. The more purchasing power you store in fiat currency, the more incentive you create to print more or counterfeit more fiat currency. So this abstraction, this geometric abstraction is like, it's fucking amazing he found this. It really is like the perfect shape to describe Bitcoin, or to visually metaphorize Bitcoin, let's say. And there is one example. Although this is an abstraction, there is one example where this occurs in physical reality. And I alluded to it at the beginning of this, but it is a black hole. Black holes do the same thing, right? They are the singularity in the fabric of space-time, and this is how Einstein himself drew it out. So, Bitcoin is an economic singularity in the same way a black hole is a spatio-temporal singularity, and I think that's why this geometric metaphor is so fitting. I think yesterday we may have mentioned Bitcoin as unity of opposites. I would also say this is another case of that, where you are uniting zero and infinity, right? There's infinite purchasing power, or surface area, can be contained in a 0% change or perfectly finite money supply or volume. So I know that's super abstract, but really interesting. I'll read one excerpt here, and this is directly from the book. We're going to be reading some excerpts today. Lowry wrote, "This means the choice to describe bit power, which is another name for Bitcoin, produced by the Bitcoin protocol is an ordinary object like a coin, could just be as accurately described as equally partitioned segments of surface area on Gabriel's horn. Why do this? Because it highlights the protocol's paradoxically logical, complex, emergent properties." So in all of this struggle we engage in trying to describe Bitcoin with the right words, I think he just found the definitively right geometric shape, which makes it really interesting.
Yeah, and this, as abstract as it seems, it also drives home viscerally some of the real world qualities of Bitcoin. Obviously, each one of these squares representing both value that can scale infinitely. Each one of these coins is stretched out as you get to that event horizon. The surface area increases the value of the coin, the amount of energy it represents. And so we see a definitive first mover advantage. If you have coins earlier on, they're stretched out. And we see like that is one of the reasons that Lowry is so emotional and excitedly expounding this thesis, is because nation states that get on at the beginning here are in that stretched out surface area phase. And so, yeah, this very abstract, very excellent. It hits it at a high level, but it also reminds us of the practical and very immediate implications of adopting or not adopting Bitcoin.
Yeah, the huge incentive pressure to be a first mover, the first mover advantage,
Yeah.
because you're closer to the edge of the horn, basically further away from the point.
Yep.
And as more purchasing power is put into the system, that benefits early adopters disproportionately. He also has this thing where he's showing that the last 10% of the horn is still under construction, which is, well, we're still mining Bitcoin until the year 2140. Only 90% roughly of the supply has been issued, and there's about 10% of the supply remaining. I think by the year, I think it's in 10 years, 2035, 99% of the Bitcoin supply will have been issued, and we'll spend the last 105 years of Bitcoin mining competing to issue that last 1%.
Yeah,
so there's another, again, the advantage of being first here to the game is it's massive, and that's what spurs and drives Bitcoin adoption.
It's such a beautiful metaphor too, because if you look at it and the structure, and you imagine that part of it being pulled, stretched out for the entirety of infinity, and you see how it comes down asymptotically, that perfectly imitates the issuance of Bitcoin, right? The halving.
Yeah.
And we're constantly decreasing the amount every 4 years that is issued. And just as an aside, obviously this is such a beautiful metaphor for it, and it also perfectly explains why Bitcoin is so hard to understand, because who understands black holes, right?
Exactly.
They don't follow the things that we know to be true about physics, which are the way that we define the world.
Yes.
So it's no wonder that this is such a difficult concept to understand, but Jason Lowry found it.
Yeah, it re-emphasizes that trope. I guess maybe Saylor said this originally, that all your models are broken.
Yes.
Kind of thing. It's like,
Yes.
Well, here it is.
Yep.
The black holes break all physical models, and Bitcoin breaks economic models. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.